Whether you enjoyed it for what it was or are rational, it's pretty much impossible not to notice that the Veilguard just doesn't feel like a Dragon Age game. From the writing to wenches, it's clear that BioWare's new blockbuster flop isn't just a worse version of previous Dragon Age games, but a title driven by a distinctly different idea of what Dragon Age is. One that is in direct conflict with the core identity of the series. And I believe it's this identity crisis that is at the center of the Veilguard's inability to appeal to both old fans and new audiences. You see, the devs couldn't completely abandon the Dragon Age identity, and yet because they were so obsessed with diverging from it, they also couldn't commit to what made it work in the first place. And what happens in this sort of situation is you end up with a game that has a kind of split personality, lacking either the appeal of the original, nor an entirely fully realized new vision. That's why playing the Veilguard is such a strange experience for an old fan of the franchise. I know through much of my playthrough, the main emotion I felt was confusion. Yes, I knew it was a bit off. I'd heard about Tash, I'd analysed much of the previews myself and came to that same conclusion, and I've watched reviews, so I knew it was coming. But just like my last prostate exam,
hey, just what the hell do you think you're doing?
Even then, I still wasn't prepared for what was to come. One moment you see a man choked by big tentacles in a dark gothic setting with blood rituals. Next moment you're in a therapy session for gender curious foreheads. Or looking for books with a goofy treasure hunter. And so your mind never really knows where to go. Is this a goofy fun adventure? Well, it's not really fun, is it?
They're still holding it, sorry.
And the plot involves a lot of dark stuff. Well, I guess then it must be a dark fantasy. But it's also not really dark. Every bad guy is one-dimensional, and enemies look like what happens when you give a 2-year-old bright-colored Play-Doh. So it's hard to enter that immersive state where you're hooked to this imaginary world. A great example of this split personality is the Crows plotline. In Origins, the Antivan Crows were set up to be a brutal, bloodthirsty, and amoral operation of assassins, as you'd expect from a band of people that kill for a living. But because the devs felt like this version just didn't work with the themes of bad versus good guys they were trying to convey in the Veilguard, or just didn't really know about them, as this clip seems to indicate.
Alright, next up we have Seb.
Daddy issues.
I'm gonna be honest, I don't even remember him. I don't remember much about him.
I don't remember.
This guild of assassins was transformed into a mere caricature of the original. Despite being bloodthirsty killers, the Crows in the Veilguard are presented as generic good guys.
The Crows rule Antiva, and Treviso will be free.
Who just want to protect their city through stabbings. Which as a Londoner, I know doesn't work. And the only bad guy in the whole organization, the main villain of Lucanus's plotline, is just a generic power-hungry evildoer.